First and foremost, happy Tuesday, happy June 1st, happy Pride Month. We're just in a moment of appreciation for all the good things coming our way, like summer's coming up, time to get some rest. And I'm excited to present on self-care and mindfulness just because for folks who are students with school out of the picture for a bit, hopefully we have some time to, recover and just gain some more skills on how to be mindful of our body and also practice some self-care strategies. So who am I? For those who are first to our session and to those who are coming back, my name is Jazmin Rojas, pronouns she, they. I am a fourth year at UCI studying psychological and biological sciences. So before we officially get started, quick disclaimer that the information here we offer is not therapy, but if you do need further assistance or need help, please contact us for further assistance. By the end of today's session, Eloisa will go ahead and provide our contact info, and we'll be more than happy to get you with some resources that might be beneficial to you. So some community agreements for those, once again, who are back. Vegas rule: what is said here stays here, what is learned here leaves here. We want to be open-minded and respectful, as well as actively listening. And lastly, throwing sunshine, not shade. So making sure this is a safe environment for us to be vulnerable, share our comments, thoughts, and feelings. And anything that's said is always appreciated and always welcome. So our objectives for today is defining self-care. What is self-care? Why is it beneficial? And also the different kinds of self-care, as well as mindfulness. So what is it? Why is it important? And how can we actually practice it? So self-care is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness. I really like the protecting one's own because it kind of signifies that we're in control of our own happiness and our own well-being, especially in moments of stress. So for me, for example, I'm entering week 10. I am prepping for finals weekend. And because of that, I'm making sure I'm taking care of myself, being kind to myself in whatever way that might mean to me, just because self-care can it can be seen in a variety of ways depending on the type of individual you might be. Why is self-care actually beneficial? It really helps you maintain a healthy relationship with yourself, being able to recognize your own needs at the moment and your needs in the future. It also produces positive feelings. It helps you with self-esteem and confidence. And most importantly, it really fortifies your self-awareness. And lastly, it really develops your communication skills, because if you're able to kind of recognize what you might be feeling at the moment, the chances of someone else experiencing that same emotion can be very, very likely. And so by having these skills, you'll be able to not only help yourself, but one day in the future also help others. So different kinds of self-care. The first one, physical self-care, can be the most basic or the most extravagant kind of self-care. But physical self-care includes how you're fueling your body, how much sleep you're getting, how much physical activity you're doing, and how well you're caring for your own physical needs. So the most basic level of physical self-care can be eating, sleeping, showering, and a little bit more extravagant is exercising. I know it's a little difficult to exercise, squeezing in exercise sessions with busy schedules, but it's really healthy to just get your blood flowing, making sure you're getting enough oxygen, moving your joints. Like with quarantine and all, I'm 22 and my knees hurt. I'm like, that is not okay. I need to, practice physical self-care, and that might mean walking my dog, just maybe 5 to 10 minutes every single day, going upstairs, just up and down, if that's accessible to you, if you're willing and able to. And also at the bottom, I included a little bit more extravagant physical self-care. So reading a book, that's a physical self-care. It might be just, pausing and breathing for a bit. It can also be gardening. I really love plants. So I always have one right next to me, and it just calms me down. And as well as puzzles. I really like puzzles, and it's a different kind of way of thinking rather than, academic thinking. Puzzles is just okay, how can I do a lot of things, right, with certain puzzle pieces? So it really depends on you, and physical self-care is really in your own hands. So emotional self-care. Emotional self-care requires a little bit more. Emotional self-care is caring for your emotional needs by identifying and nurturing feelings, your conscious inner state, and your intellect. So what does this look like? So for me, emotional self-care really makes me self-check. So in moments of anxiety, when I'm kind of freaking out, I really like to ground myself by asking myself, what time is it and what day it is? So just kind of being aware of where I am in time. Where am I physically at also as well? And asking myself, what do I need to worry about in this exact moment? And by answering these questions out loud, it kind of makes me calm down in the sense of, okay, maybe what I'm internally worried about is actually not that bad whenever I say it out loud, right? And also just general self-checks that you can do is just taking deep breaths. My favorite one is taking a deep breath, rising my shoulders all the way up, and then just letting them go. Because then I really realize how much tension I'm holding, how much I'm like clenching my jaw. And also journaling can also be really helpful because internalizing isn't a good thing. And so if you're not comfortable speaking your emotions with other folks, journaling isn't that bad. It can be very unintentional where you just write until you think it's enough, or you can actually just set a timer for yourself. Just free write whatever you're experiencing at the moment. And so practicing mindfulness, I'll be covering that further into the slides, but it can really be helpful to grounding yourself, calming yourself, and also just emotionally checking where you're at. So social self-care activities. Social self-care activities is actually one of my favorites. But social self-care activities involves activities that nurture and deepen the relationships with people in your lives. Just because social networking and social support is very important. As mammals, we like to commune in environments with other people. And so with our current circumstances, social distancing and stuff, technology has actually facilitated a lot of that. And you can do a lot of FaceTiming activities, Netflix parties, Hulu parties, and also paint nights. My favorite one is sharing my screen and following like a Bob Ross tutorial. And all of my friends just eventually show our own thing, right? And so you get a lot of benefits from that. You can also just participate in like picnics and doing a lot more physical stuff in the present. But for our current circumstances, technology has really facilitated the ability for us to continue our social self-care activities. So here's the importance between self-care and self-indulgence. A lot of people like to use the excuse of, oh, this is self-care for everything, right? But it's really important to differentiate the two. So self-care is the intentional action to nourish your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. The key word here is nourishing yourself, right? It contributes to personal growth, the development of a stronger identity, a heightened sense of self-awareness, and a richer connection to the core of who you are. Self-indulgence, on the other hand, is spontaneous. It is a spontaneous action motivated by emotional decision-making and does not have a long-term positive impact. It really satisfies your needs in the present moment, but doesn't really have lasting benefits. So here are a couple of examples. Would this be self-care or self-indulgence? Binge drinking after a stressful day when you have work the next morning. The definition of self-indulgence would be motivated by emotional making and doesn't have a long-term impact. So in this case, our first example would most likely be clarified as self-indulgence. Second example, avoiding your homework for the night because you feel mentally overwhelmed. I like to categorize that as self-care just because, at the moment, sometimes we're just so brain fried, you can't really focus on what you're doing, you get more frustrated, and it just spirals down and it's not really beneficial to yourself. So by avoiding that homework for the night, you really just get to relax, decompress, and can actually be taking care of yourself by stopping what you're doing at the moment. Working out every day without any breaks as a way to clear your mind, even though that might be self-care in the moment, over a long period of time, it could be self-indulgence because no breaks can really just tire you out in the long run and really, really degrade your body in the long run as well. Eating half a gallon after a breakup, that is self-care. Self-care all the way. It'll make you feel good. It'll just, kind of take away what's going on at the moment. Going on a shopping spree after a rough week. And in this case, it depends. It can be self-care if you have big bucks, but it can also be self-indulgence if budgeting is a little short. Just because what if you go on a shopping spree? At the moment, it might feel really good, but what happens at the end of the day when you have no more money and now you're stressing out, right? So really try to think of, will this help me in the long run? Is it nourishing me as an individual, or is it only making me feel good at the moment? So mindfulness, it consists of two ingredients, acceptance and also awareness. It's being aware of your surroundings. It's being aware and accepting that there are certain things in our lives that we can and can't control. And that usually happens between two things. You can either judge and avoid, or you can observe and accept. And then from there, you can actually make a scheme on how you can accept how certain things aren't controllable and how you can adapt. And you can also adopt. And you can just navigate your way through life by accepting and observing rather than judging and avoiding. And so the benefits of this is being present and paying attention, being self-aware, compassionate, empathetic, and also regulating your own emotions. And so how can we do this? It really follows a guide of meditation. And then so it can really involve by being comfortable. It can be anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, or it can take as long as you want. That's a nice thing. You have complete control over your own mindfulness. And so the goal here is to kind of notice your body and your senses. You really want to focus on your breathing. By breathing, you'll be able to calm down. Whenever you breathe really profoundly, you're actually massaging a vagus nerve. And so that kind of helps you calm down with your nervous system. You're also able to see whenever your mind begins to wander. What are you starting to wander on? What are your worries, right? And so that can really calm you down and kind of provide some kind of guidance as to what can you do to solve the situation you're in. And by the end of it, you'll be able to notice the before and after of meditation, right? So at first, you might be really tense. You might be hyperventilating. And after a moment of calm, you'll just notice, okay, I know where my mind is wandering. I know what I should do now. And even if you don't get that clarity, that's totally okay. The most important part is that you're aware of what's going on. It's totally okay to not be okay. And so you'll be able to realize when maybe I do need to seek more support, or maybe it was just all in my head, right? And so hopefully you'll be able to do this. And if you don't feel comfortable doing this on your own, YouTube has great guided meditations. And so after some time, you'll be able to adopt this throughout your day-to-day habits. So some resources in the Valley, I really recommend the Student Health and Wellness Service at College of the Desert. Their hours are listed there. The Desert Flow Resource Center is also really great. And the All Desert Wellness Center is free services for those 18 and above, but also the Oasis Coachella Center is welcoming to all of their folks.